Now, if you're anything like me, back in your 20s, you had a whole bunch of late nights and early mornings. I don't even know, what were we doing at that point? I certainly can't do that anymore. As a holistic health and hormone specialist, I am constantly telling people about the interconnectedness of our bodies. Many people assume that holistic just means natural and not doing any pharmaceuticals and things like that, but it really just means looking at someone as a whole person. That means taking into consideration stress levels and what that person's life looks like, and not just focusing mainly on diet and exercise, especially when we're talking about hormones and we're talking about weight loss. So let's dive into how sleep intertwines with our weight and also with our hormones. Now, when we're addressing health from a holistic perspective, sleep is one of those pillars that is just super important. Now, why is that? It's because sleep is our recalibration time for our bodies. This is when our body goes through all of its processes, when we're nice and deep into our REM sleep. Just having one restless night can make you feel completely off. Now, as we age, quick recovery from nights like that can become even rarer, and even if you are able to do it somehow, there is certainly a price to pay. You might struggle with things like falling asleep, getting good quality sleep, or even waking up feeling like you never even went to sleep at all. And if this pattern persists, it turns out to be what we call chronic sleep deprivation. And how does this chronic lack of sleep manifest? Well, it mostly impacts our insulin, which of course regulates our blood sugar. When you have an insulin imbalance, it can trigger things like weight fluctuations and even those crazy sugar cravings that you may tend to have. And this brings us to a classic conundrum when we're thinking about like the chicken and the egg. So what came first, the hormonal imbalance or the trouble with sleeping? Well, research has shown that it's a two-way street. So yes, lack of sleep can impact your hormone balance. When we're sleep deprived, the body produces more cortisol, which is otherwise known as the stress hormone. So having elevated cortisol levels, especially at night, can lead to hormonal imbalances. And this affects everything from our mood to weight gain to even retaining weight, particularly in the belly. Now, on the flip side, having hormonal imbalances can cause quality sleep to be very elusive. Now, for instance, if someone is entering into menopause, they may have trouble sleeping because of the fluctuations between estrogen and progesterone. This also happens with ladies who are dealing with things like PCOS, where the melatonin levels are just not where they should be. So while it's a complex relationship, there's clearly an interdependency there. And recognizing this connection is really the first step, whether it's coming from the hormone imbalance itself or it's coming from just not being able to sleep well in general to begin with. Remember, in the world of functional health, everything is interconnected. So let's talk about ghrelin and leptin, which we're going to kind of call the conductors of our hunger cues. When you're sleep deprived, ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, is going to go into overdrive, meaning you're going to be hungrier. Now, at the same time while that is happening, leptin, which is our other hunger hormone that tells us when we are full, that one just kind of checks out. So you can kind of see how this becomes a recipe for disaster. So what is the result? It's overeating, weight gain, and being incredibly frustrated with the entire process. Now, I want to use myself as an example. So if we look at this picture, around this time, I was going to the doctor all the time, trying to get all my levels checked, trying to figure out what it was that was going on. Some of you guys know the story about me finding out about the acanthosis that you can see all over my skin, which that was a sign of insulin resistance, right? So our bodies are always trying to tell us something. But I particularly remember always going to the doctor and trying to convince my doctor at the time to put me on a prescription sleep aid because I was just having an awful time trying to get to sleep. And when I think about that, I think about how much effort and energy I could have saved myself if I knew a little bit more about these things instead of just asking for a prescription sleep aid, but digging a little bit deeper to find out what was going on and what was the root cause of why I was having trouble sleeping to begin with. Now, obviously, we know the insulin resistance and all the things that were going on, but I think what wasn't fully explained to me was the connection, right? Like, it wasn't really being all brought together. When I would go to the doctor, it was just like, you need to lose weight, right? But it wasn't giving me a full explanation of what was going on so that I could better understand how I was hurting myself and how I could help my body. So how did I fix it? Well, restoring balance is key. Now, beyond the usual advice of like dark rooms, staying off your phone, reading before bed, that type of thing, I'd suggest considering other factors like your gut health or inflammation, even your stress levels. How are you responding to the stressors in your life? And even thinking back to the first video in this series where we talked about testing in general and hormone testing, making sure that you have those labs, you get those results, you go to a practitioner who is open to taking a holistic approach or a functional approach to helping you to get those numbers to where they should be. That is probably the best step that you can take, is first getting those numbers and then making sure you find a doctor who is in line with what your goals are for what you're trying to achieve. Remember, it's about addressing the root causes, not just covering up the symptoms. If you want to learn more about this, and especially hormones, how they're impacting you as you get older, you're a woman over 30, maybe you're someone who's diagnosed with something like PCOS or endometriosis like I am, I'm going to be hosting a class on October 23rd. It's going to be completely online. Right now there's an early bird special going on where you will get access to the class recording so that you can go back, you can take notes, you can kind of refresh your memory. That's only going to be for people who are enrolled in the early bird, so I will go ahead and leave the link somewhere on the screen and also down in the description box so that you can check that out. But stay tuned for the rest of this series because we got some more stuff coming up. I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.